Hello guys, welcome to my YouTube channel, your favorite channel to be Story by Vera. So on today's story, we'll be telling you a story titled Buried in Her Silence, a story of Miriam who has been in silence for over 10 years and finally decided to speak her truth. And you want to find out what happened to Miriam to be silent for a good number of 10 years. So we'll start the story. But before then, if you're new on this channel, do well to like, subscribe and turn on your notification bell to always get notified whenever there's a new story. And for my returning subscribers, I say thank you a bunch. You guys are my real MVP. So let's get the story started.
Buried in her silence, the wind had a way of dancing on the old iron roof of the Oludare family mansion. It wasn't a home, it was a haunted memory, the kind of place where every crack of the floorboards whispered and told stories, and shadows moved just a bit too fast to be warned. Mariam Oludare hadn't spoken a word in 10 years. Not a scream, not a whisper, not even a sob. Not since that night. She was 10 when her voice was stolen by terror. Now 20. She lived like a ghost in her father's house, hidden from the world, locked in silence, but watching, always watching. They said she was cursed. Her mother, Auntie Ronke, the housemates, everyone had their theory. Some said a demon had taken root in her heart. Others claimed she had seen something so evil. Her soul locked itself away for safety, but no one truly knew. Not even her father. Chief Folarin Oludare was a man of stature, respect and power. The kind of man who could smile in public while blood stained his hands behind closed doors. He had wealth, yes, but it came with secrets. The kind of secrets Mariam held silently in the depth of her memory. When Adaobi arrived as the new living housekeeper, the staff barely looked up. Chief Folarin had a habit of changing workers like outfits, but there was something different about her. She was younger, maybe 25, with sharp eyes that looked like they belonged to someone who had seen too much. And she asked too many questions. Why is the third floor always locked? Why does Miriam never come downstairs? Why does nobody talk about the fire? The others warned her. Don't get curious, said Mama Kenny, the cook. Curiosity killed more than the cats in this house. But Adaobi couldn't help herself. She noticed things. The old family portrait where Miriam's mother had been scratched out, the cracking attic that sometimes glowed faintly at night, and most of all, she noticed Miriam, who stared out her attic window with haunting eyes that didn't belong to a girl her age. Something was wrong here, very wrong. It was a Thursday when it happened. Thunder rumbled like angry gods, and the mansion groaned under the weight of its secret. Adaobi had been dusting the hallway when she heard it. A scream, not loud, not long, but sharp and trembling like it had fought through years of silence just to escape. She ran, heart pounding, legs trembling, towards the attic. When she reached the door, it was unlocked. Mariam sat in the corner, knees to her chest, rocking slowly. Her eyes were red, wide, distant. Adaobi approached slowly. Mariam, the girl didn't answer. She didn't look up, but she did something Adaobi hadn't seen her do before. She lifted her hands and pointed to the far end of the attic, where a large rusted trunk sat half covered in old curtains. Adaobi hesitated. Her instinct screamed for her to leave, but she crossed the room away. She opened the trunk. What she found made her fall back in horror. Inside was a blooded dress, a charred photo, and a broken door. The door's mouth had been sewn shut. They told the world it was an accident, an electrical fault, a short circuit that turned the east wind into ashes. But Miriam knew the truth. She saw it happen. She saw her mother, beautiful, brave Mama Ifoma, arguing with Chief Oludare in the study. She saw the slap, The shove, the candle falling, the flames rising, and then silence. She saw her mother run into the east wind, coughing, crying. The fire spread fast, too fast. No one tried to save her. Mariam stood at the top of the stairs, frozen in place, while the father watched the flames, cold calculating eyes. He never called the fire department. He never screamed her name. He just stood there, watching his wife burn. After the fire, Mariam stopped speaking. Because what was the point? Who would believe a 10-year-old accusing a respected politician of murder? And so she buried her truth in silence. Adobe wasn't who she claimed to be. She wasn't just a housekeeper. She was a journalist, an undercover reporter for City Truth Weekly. Her brother had once worked security for Chief Oludare until he disappeared without a trace 2 years ago. Everyone said he stole money and fled, but Adobe knew better. And now she was inside the lion's den. After the Arctic incident, she started digging. Every night, while the others slept, she searched the house, the study, the storage, the forbidden library, and she kept notes, dates, photos, and clues. And everything pointed to one thing. Chief Oludare was hiding more than just his wife's death. He was hiding bodies. Miriam didn't speak, but she drew hundreds of pages, trunked under the mattress, inside her wardrobe, beneath floorboards. Each one told a piece of the puzzle. Her mother's last moments, the secret passage beneath the house, the red room with locks on the side, and the man in the black mask. Adobe took the drawings one by one and started connecting dots. What she found chilled her to the bone. Chief Oludare wasn't acting alone. There were others. Men in high places, men who attended gatherings at the mansion, secret meetings where no one was allowed to carry phones or ask questions, men who disappeared witnesses, like Miriam's nanny, like Adobe's brother. It was 2 a.m. when Adobe heard it. A faint whisper behind the wall near the guest quarters. She pressed her ear to the surface. Help, please. She grabbed a flashlight and began knocking gently until she found a hollow sound. Behind the panel was a hidden door, latched shut. With trembling hands, she opened it. Inside was a narrow tunnel, damp, dark, and lined with old stone. She stepped in, breath shallow, heart pounding. The air smelled of rust and mud and blood. At the end of the tunnel was a small cell. Inside, a girl, thin, pale, eyes sunken. She looked about 17. She wasn't alone. There were bones shattered on the floor, shackles on the wall, and carvings, names scratched into the stones. Adobe recognized one. Casey, her brother. She stumbled back in horror, bile rising in her throat. The girl looked up and whispered, "Run before they find you." For 10 years, Mariam had waited for someone brave or foolish enough to enter her world and light a match to the lies. Adobe was that spark, and now Mariam was ready. She began to write, not speak, but write. Names, dates, secrets. She handed Adobe a note that night, a chilling list of everyone involved, including a judge, a commissioner, and a priest. At the bottom of the list, one line stood alone. He buried them in the garden under the statue of St. Paul. Adobe's hand trembled as she read it. She knew what she had to do. Under the cover night, Adobe and Miriam crept into the garden, flashlight in hand. They reached the old statue of St. Paul, withered and moaning, their dog. In silence, in fear, and after 30 minutes of digging, They found it. A wooden box, rotting, heavy. Adobe opened it slowly. Inside were bones, small ones, too small to be adults, three skulls, and a necklace. One Adobe recognized from a missing girl reported 5 years ago. Tears streamed down her face. This was bigger than anyone knew. A serial killer, a ring, a network, and the mastermind was Miriam's father. That night, as Adobe tried to upload the evidence to her encrypted drive, he heard a knock at her door. Soft, calm. She opened it, only to find Miriam, trembling. She held out a paper. One word, run, and then a gunshot echoed through the mansion. Adobe dropped to the floor. Voices rose. Heavy boots thundered down the hall. The door burst open. Chief Oludare stood there, calm, smiling. I warned you, Miss Adobe, he said coldly. Curiosity is a disease, and unfortunately there's no cure. Behind him stood two men in black suits. And Miriam, she didn't move. She didn't scream. She didn't run. Simply stared at Adobe with haunted eyes, muttering one word, forgive me, and then everything went black.